Let's pick up on this creativity theme. The concept of what Einstein called com- combinatory
Hmm.
combinatory play, which is exposing yourself to different ideas and combining those ideas into productive thought. You've got a whole chapter on this. That reminds me of Leonardo da Vinci and
Hmm.
actually and Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs, who
Yep.
said creativity is just connecting things. So is this idea of combinatory play taking ideas from different fields and combining them into the field or the problem that you're trying to find a solution to?
Yeah, absolutely. That's, I think, another essential part of creativity that unfortunately gets neglected in the modern world, which tends to focus too much on specialization. But life doesn't work in these isolated silos. There is so much to be gained by exposing yourselves to different disciplines, different industries, different knowledge fields, and creating and combining ideas from them. So you mentioned Steve Jobs, Carmine.
Mhm.
One of the famous examples from him is he took this when he was attending Reed College. He took a class on calligraphy, not because he thought it would have a professional benefit at the time, but because he was interested. Well, fast forward to when he founded Apple and started designing software, that calligraphy class became essential to the fonts that he used in the Macintosh. Those proportionally spaced fonts came directly from this calligraphy class that Steve Jobs took in college. Another example that comes to mind is Charles Darwin. Charles Darwin was studying species, but his approach to evolution was very much involved by a textbook he had read on geology, which said, the geological features that we're observing tends to happen over time, gradually, not by a momentous event, but as like wind and rain and water chip away at the earth over time. And he thought, I wonder if the evolution of species also works like that. And he had also read a book on economics, which argued that the scarcity of resources creates this competition for survival for the most adaptable species. And he said, that's also interesting. That might also apply to evolution. And so, there were people at the time who had read this geology textbook. There were people at the time who may have read this economics textbook, but it was a rare person who had studied geology, who had studied economics, and who was also studying species. And he was able to combine these different disciplines to come up with a theory of natural selection. A modern example is from Reed Hastings, the co-founder of Netflix. He, before he co-founded the company, he was a computer programmer, I believe, and he had incurred a bunch of late fees for renting Apollo 13 at his local Blockbuster. And he's working out at his gym. He's upset about having to pay $40 in late fees. And it occurs to him that at his gym, he could pay $20, $30 a month and work out as much or as little as he wanted. And a thought came to him. And going back to our earlier discussion, this was in a moment of slack. Like he wasn't listening to anything. He was just there working out. And a thought occurred to him. And he decided to take that idea from the fitness industry and apply it to the video rental industry to create Netflix. And it's, you pay one fee, set fee per month, and you can watch as many movies or as little movies as you want. And so what's commonplace in one industry can be breakthrough in the other. But often we're not combining those or making those connections because we're reading the same books, we're reading the magazines associated with our industry. We're only going to conferences that our industry organizers put together, and we're not being exposed to ideas from different disciplines. And if you look at successful business people in the modern world, they tend to be outsiders to the industry that they crashed, that they disrupted, because they could take these ideas that they picked up from one industry and apply them to the other.